Hello and welcome to the Katie Life podcast, your window to life in the UAE. My name is Anamika Chatterjee and I'm your host. Today is a special day. We are recording from the Expo city where Booker Prize winning author Ben Okri is conducting workshops and promoting his book Tiger Work and Every Leaf a Hallelujah. It was in 1991 that Okri won a Booker for The Famished Road. Ever since, his writing has evolved to touch upon many subjects. But lately, he has taken up the cause of environmental consciousness. How does climate change impact us? Are writers and artists responding enough? We speak with Okri to find out how the artists and aesthetes can do more to address the issue of environmental crisis.
This is the KT Live podcast by Khaleej Times.
Ben, welcome to the KT Live podcast.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Thank
You are here talking about two very important works of yours, Every Leaf a Hallelujah and Tiger Work. Need you to talk a little bit about both books.
Well, with pleasure. The first of them to have been published is it's called Every Leaf a Hallelujah, and it's an environmental fable for children and grown-ups. I say it's for the people between the ages of 5 and 105, and it's the story of a young girl called Mangoshi. She's 7 years old, and she has to go to the forest to get a flower to save her mother. And at the same time, unintentionally, she also has to help to save the forest from being destroyed. So it's a tale about how anybody can contribute to halting climate devastation in one form or another. It's a story of courage. It's a story of the fact that our will and our love is much more important than our size or our numbers. Which is to say that, with the right kind of love, we can bring about the right kind of change. The second book, Tiger Work, both of which are being launched here in Dubai, is a suite, which is a musical term, a suite of poems, essays, short stories, interviews, letters, all around the theme of climate change. And I've gathered it over a period of time. The poetry is as important as the short stories. There are parables at the beginning. And I just want to use the full powers of literature to draw attention to climate while talking about other themes like courage, like heroism, like the kind of choices we're being forced to make, what we have learned from 3,000 years of the disaster of certain aspects of human thinking and human action, and what kind of future we want if it is forced upon us to make a choice. Would we like to repeat human history as we have lived it? Or would we like to take human history to a new place, a better place, a more harmonious place for human beings and for the planet? It's big questions, but asked, all of them in very intimate ways. I like asking big questions, but in intimate ways. We have to find a new way to reach people. And there's nothing quite like books to get people to make a journey of the mind and of the heart. Mm-hmm. Films can do it, but with films you're a little bit passive. You're watching something that's already been made for you. With books, you are part of the creation of what you read.
It's also a very powerful title. Every Leaf a Hallelujah is a very gentle title, but Tiger Work it's almost visceral. How does it connect with the story and the poems and everything that you've written?
Well, Every Leaf a Hallelujah is a reminder. The title, for me, is a reminder. Just in case we've forgotten, which I think most of us have, that even a leaf on a tree, one leaf out of, a tree bears about, I wonder if scientists have actually counted the leaves on one tree. Should we say about 10,000? One leaf on a tree is in itself the manifestation of a miracle. It is in itself a celebration of the power, if you could call it the sacred, the divine power that is resident in nature. Just one little leaf is a song of praise to existence, to the miracle of existence. So, Every Leaf a Hallelujah is a celebration of that, a reminder that we're dealing here with something miraculous, something wonderful that we're part of and which we're destroying every day. It's just a reminder. So you're right about the gentleness of it, but it's a radical gentleness, because that kind of celebration is not really fashionable in our times. We've become more atheistic. We've become more detached. We've become more quote unquote cool, which is to say, not wanting to engage really with these profound and beautiful things. And so it's radical. It's a radical gentleness because it's saying, hang on a minute, you want to celebrate big things? You want to celebrate AI? You want to celebrate the internet? I want to celebrate a leaf. I want to bring you back to a leaf. But tiger work, you're right. There's two sides to it. It's a poem about the increasing extinction of tigers, which seems to me to be a tragic fact. It's tragic that bugs and butterflies are dying, that spiders and all kinds of creatures that help break down complex substances. It's tragic that they're dying. It's tragic that pandas and whales and dolphins are dying. But there's something about the tiger. The tiger as a symbol, as an image, has fascinated us for a long time. It's there in the ancient stories. There's a reason we've chosen the tiger as an emblem of something very powerful in the human spirit, something powerful about creation. The human being was wonderful, but you put a human being next to a tiger, and you look at the two, and your eyes are drawn to the tiger. We're great. We're human beings. We stand on two legs. We've got hair, beautiful hair. If you're a woman, you've got beautiful design of body. But you stand next to a tiger, and you're like, what is this creature? And all the poets have sensed that. They've sensed something both ferocious and beautiful. Yeah. So the poem is a cry of anguish about the increasing extinction of tigers, but it's also a reminder that actually we need the tiger spirit right now. We need the spirit of this thing that we're making extinct. We need this fierceness and this beauty, this blazing eyes that sees the world really clearly and richly. We need the tiger spirit. And so for me, climate change work, environmental work is a tiger's work. It's not a lion's work. The lion is different from the tiger. There's something about the tiger. Its speed, its beauty, its reach, its power, its compactness. I just feel that the climate activist today has to combine that fierceness and that beauty, that compactness, that intelligence. We have to help people understand. We have to have power of persistence. And we also have to have beauty of spirit. No one talks about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have to have beauty of spirit. We have to have gentleness. We're not the enemies of humanity. We're its best friends, really, because we care about this unrepeatable miracle that is this planet and our presence here. It's unrepeatable.
True. In your work, in your writing, one also sees a cry for authenticity. Just as you said that you are celebrating AI, you are celebrating robots. I just want to celebrate a leaf. And that is so important for any artist to be able to celebrate nature. But at the same time, and I'm asking this question because you are also one of the most important thinkers of our time. Are we getting too drawn? Are we becoming replaceable basically? Because of all these technological innovations that are happening every day. We are celebrating AI. Noam Chomsky wrote a searing piece in The Guardian about not devaluing human intelligence. Or is the other perspective that now human creativity will truly shine because you will have AI doing the basic regular work, and it will force human intelligence to think beyond the obvious? What is your take?
I'm not sure that the combination of things that makes the human unique is replaceable. I'd like to give very simple examples. Sometimes you're presented with a situation that reason can't solve. You could program all the different levels of reason, but there are shadings of areas that reason just doesn't quite get to, where what's called for is an act of the heart, an act of compassion, an act of, for one moment, setting the laws aside to let something little miraculous to happen. I don't know how you program setting the laws aside so that something gentle can happen. I don't know how you do that. There's something very strange about the human being. A very simple thing can suddenly move us to a great understanding. It's a little thing. It's things like that. You see a person who looks desperate and they're angry, and you look in their hand and you find that they're holding a toy. Mm. And you think, oh, something is going on here that I don't quite understand. Mm. I don't know how you program even a super intelligent robot to do that, to make decisions like that. Mm. I hear some frightening stories about artificial intelligence, about these robots in Japan that are able to call down information to, as it were, replicate, duplicate, triplicate themselves. Now, there was something that Camus said somewhere where he talked about it didn't talk about the limits, but it talked about the danger of intelligence or reason taken to its limits. There's a way in which reason, which is what is programmable, can become terrifying. When you take it to its limit, if you take one thing and you say, this is the only way this is the way it can be, this is how it's going to be programmed to be, and you take that to its limit, that becomes terrifying. It becomes a kind of technological fascism. And it is possible to institute that without knowing that we're doing it. But the human spirit can scale up and scale down. Not at will, but just with a simple movement of the heart. I keep wanting to give you examples. My kid goes to school, has to go to the bus stop near our house. Sometimes she has difficulty getting out of bed. She's a child, Sometimes she's a tiny bit late. and she's hurrying with her mother or with me to catch the bus. And we missed the bus by a fraction of a second. The bus is just leaving as they're getting there. Now, anything that has been programmed will leave at the exact time that is programmed to leave. But from time to time, a bus driver will be leaving, would look and see the kid, see the distress of the kid, and would pause and open the doors for the kid to get on. It's things like that. It's things like that that I think make a difference to the possibility of human history. So you asked me about authenticity. Oh, wow. What are we talking about in the human spirit that is authentic? I'll tell you what I think is the most authentic thing about us. It's a realization that you cannot make an absolute judgment. And that the law of love doesn't have a law. It constantly transcends and surprises itself. Yeah. That can be programmed. And if that's not programmable, then there's no future, no absolute future in that kind of technology and the human story. At some point, they will collide. Because the absolute law of reason will come up against the transcendent law of love.
You talk a lot about existential creativity, which makes a plea for artists, writers, to address the issue of climate change in their art with a sense of urgency. Okay, why has that become a need of the hour for artists, and why are we not responding enough creatively to that crisis?
I'm going to answer your question backwards. Why we're not responding enough creatively? I think it's very hard. I think artists have been. We've trained ourselves to tell certain kinds of stories in certain kinds of ways. We have our topos. We have the topography of our medium, of our media. You know, if you become a novelist, for example, you read the great tradition. You know, you read Cervantes, you read Tom Jones, you read Jane Austen. You know, if you move into modern times, you might read Chinua Achebe, Toni Morrison. You might read Salman Rushdie. You know, and all of these novels, they take as their center the human story. You know, love story, stories of heroism, stories of the human imagination, written in a certain kind of language, which is considered literary, which has ambiguity and richness, and it's never direct. And then you're asking people who have been trained in that tradition to now suddenly turn their attention to this urgent thing that's called climate change, which is recent in their tradition. It doesn't have an old. If you look for the classics of environmental fiction, environmental novels, at the best 50 years, 60, 70 years. It's not old in our tradition. That's not entirely true, but that's how we feel it. So we don't know how to suddenly turn this great art of the novel, of the poem, how to turn that to this modern, recent, new to us environmental issue. And yet to have the complexity of art in it, and to have no direct message, because, you know, literature is the enemy of the direct message.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong, by the way.
Really?
Yes, I think that's wrong. I think literature is also the friend of the direct message. Literature has done so many different things. It's never done one thing. Sometimes literature exists just to tell people, don't go through that door. Literature does that. Artists have done that in the past. It's just that's not part of the great broad stream of the tradition that most people are trained in, you know? And so the idea of writing something direct. It's terrifying to most novelists, to most artists. And I think it's just bad cultural training, personally. I think it's possible and inevitable that we find a way to deal with the climate crisis in literature while still being rich, while having ambiguity, while having all of the things that literature can do, but all of its power directed to helping people open their hearts and their minds about what's happening to us right now. Because for me, it is one of the most urgent, if not the single most urgent issue hanging over the human race. Some people say it's racism. Some people say it's gender. Some people say it's class, poverty. I think all of those things have their place, but I think this is the most important overriding thing. Existential creativity. We're in existential times. This is the most difficult crisis that the human race has faced for 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years. It is the most urgent thing. It's the most existential thing. We have to find a philosophy to deal with it. We have to find an artistry to respond to it.
I think in Tiger work, I was reading an extract. Is that where you have written to heal nature, you have to heal yourself? What is that? What does that healing entail?
Well, let's reverse your question. How can you heal? How can you heal nature when you are still wounded? How are we going to heal the world when we're divided and full of competition and full of division, full of class and racial conflicts? How are we going to heal nature when we're, people, we're divided by the dream of domination and victimhood? When we want to dominate, we want to rule the roost, we want to conquer, we want to take over, we want to, when our industries and our corporations, it's all about taking over, winning, victory at all costs. How can you heal nature when you have all this in your spirit? It's not possible. Because the very desire to dominate itself, the very high level of vicious competition itself, is part of the problem that churns out energy waste, and drives industry in disastrous directions. We must get more out of our resources. We must mine, cobalt in other places for our smartphones. We must have more of these than the next person. By its very nature, all of that is driving us towards extinction. So we can't heal nature with that. So for me, the climate crisis is a human crisis. We look out to the climate and we measure things and we give statistics. I'd like to turn it around and say, actually, it's us. It's us. You heal us and we get our spirit straight and understand what we are and how we can possibly relate to nature and our universe. Everything else gets sorted out. The only unfortunate thing is that there isn't enough time to heal us before we heal the world. There isn't enough time for that. Things are too urgent. So whatever we do will be a flawed fixing. We're going to be fixing things in a flawed way. So at some point, we're going to have to turn around and deal with us. We human beings. We're the problem. We're meant to exist here with other species, but in a balanced sort of way. We're not meant to dominate. We're not meant to take over and get rid of the caterpillar and the bug and the butterfly and the bees. And we're not meant to get rid of them because we're expanding. That's not the idea. We're not meant to win. We're not here to win. This is not meant to be a victory of the human race. It's meant to be a victory of the whole ecology, the whole system of nature, of the earth, all of its levels, to live in a reasonable balance and respect with one another. No species is meant to win.
True. So true. Last question. You were very young when you won the Booker for The Famished Road. And ever since, your writing has evolved and has touched many, many dimensions. How do you map the journey that you've had since The Famished Road? It's
the same journey, really. I've just been wanting to to tell the truth about the human spirit. You know, people think The Famished Road is a work of magical realism and a work of mythical realism, a work of spiritual realism, of animism, and different labels. It's none of those things. It's just me just trying to tell the truth about the richness of the human spirit. I just think that the definition of the human that I received as a child is a narrow one and a dangerous one. It just makes us out to be all flesh, but just flesh and bones. And our emotions are chemical reactions, and our memories are possibly non-existent, but they exist in the synapses of our brain. And our brain itself is possibly decomposing matter, and what we are is just, in the end, actually disposable. And finally, without mystery. I just couldn't accept that. The more I look at things, the more I look at nature, the more I look at us, the more I find us to be beings of fearful wonder. We're dust mixed with gods. We're dust mixed with divinity. There's something very extraordinary about us, you know. And that's all I wanted to do, was just to tell the story of how rich and how there's the touches, flashes of eternity in this, what appears to be this mortal flesh. And you can only do this through imagination and through myth and through. These are the only ways you can suggest this. Realism wasn't big enough to convey reality, so I had to find a way to extend realism so they could catch more of the magic of reality. That's all I'm doing still. Every Leaf for Hallelujah is a continuation of that. It's not just a human being who's extraordinary. I'm saying one leaf is extraordinary. You can't make a leaf from nothing in a laboratory. Nobody can do it. They've done AI, but make a leaf out of nothing. You can't take anything that's been in existence. You have to make this leaf completely out of nothing. You can't do it. Make it live. So it has all its veins. So it has all its greens. So it's able to take sunlight from the air and pass it on into the tree. You make a technology like that, and we can have a conversation.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much. Tiger Work and Every Leaf for Hallelujah, both books. Tiger Work will be available at the bookstores.
It's all available.
It's all available at the bookstores. Please grab your copies as soon as possible. Ben Okri is one of the most important writers, thinkers of our time, and it was an absolute pleasure to hear you, to do this interview with you, Ben. Thank you so much.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you. You've asked
Thank
great
you.
questions.
Thanks. KT Life Podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Tell us what you thought of this episode, and please feel free to suggest the issues and topics and people you would like us to feature on the podcast. Till next week, with multimedia producer Phil Green and camera person Shihab, this is Anamika Chatterjee signing off.